March 17, 1943. Tirpitz Sofa 76-78 Berlin. The file crashed onto the mahogany desk with such intensity that Admiral Wilhelm Canaris' porcelain coffee cup tipped, spilling coffee onto intelligence documents that, if discovered by the Gestapo, would have resulted in execution. Unbelievable. The Americans are sending us propaganda via compromised operatives. From the expansive windows at Abwehr headquarters, Canaris looked out at the Landwehr Canal, where Rosa Luxemburg's corpse had been thrown 24 years before. Now, as the head of German military intelligence, he gripped in hands that would not stop shaking a report that undermined not only Nazi propaganda, but also the entire numerical basis underpinning German victory. Based on intercepted transmissions and messages from agents who remained active in Mexico City, it was reported that Ford Motor Company's Willow Run facility was turning out a single four-engine B-24 Liberator bomber each hour. The B-24 Liberator, composed of 1.5 million distinct parts, 450,000 rivets, and 30,000 individual components made into an 18-ton airplane, was being assembled and delivered at a pace exceeding Germany's ability to manufacture a basic Kübelwagen military vehicle. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz, who stood at attention across from Canaris' desk, had verified the intelligence 3 times. The data held steady. What neither officer realized was that this very instant would spark the greatest intelligence disaster of modern conflict: the ongoing inability of German intelligence to grasp, credit, or successfully transmit the actual magnitude of American industrial output to the Nazi top brass, thus sealing the Third Reich's fate through an error in arithmetic destiny. The unraveling of German insight into American manufacturing began 2 years previously. In 1941, Luftwaffe General Karl Kohler had given Hermann Göring military attaché General Friedrich von Inster's reports from Washington, which asserted that American aircraft output was nearing 2,000 airplanes monthly. Göring burst into laughter, literally, stating Americans couldn't build anything beyond refrigerators and safety razors, let alone warplanes. The Americans are pretending, Göring remarked to Hitler at the Wolfschanz in December 1941, just 4 days after Pearl Harbor. Their democratic system weakens them. Their mixed-race society leads to inefficiency. Their Jews introduce corruption. They are incapable of producing what they boast about. By March 1943, German intelligence teams throughout the Americas were gathering data that contradicted every tenet of Nazi racial ideology and economic theory. The findings originated from a range of sources: Mexican business magnates favoring Germany, Spanish ambassadors, Swedish entrepreneurs transiting through Detroit, and even intercepted correspondence from American factory employees to kin in neutral nations. The message was always the identical, implausible assertion: the Willow Run plant run by Ford alone surpassed the combined output of all German aircraft production lines in heavy bombers. Oberstleutnant Nicholas Ritter, the leader of Abwehr's Air Intelligence Division under Furl Luft, had dedicated 3 weeks to interpreting the records. Having once been a pilot for Lufthansa and lived in the United States for a decade prior to the war, Ritter grasped American industrial might better than most of his compatriots in the German ranks. His New York apartment during the 1920s faced the site where the Chrysler Building was constructed. He had observed Americans build the world's tallest skyscraper in under 2 years. Herr Admiral Ritter provided his assessment to Canaris. If these figures prove accurate, which I am certain they are, then Germany's defeat is inevitable. It is strictly a matter of arithmetic and timing. The intelligence was delivered through indirect channels, each more perilous than its predecessor. Georg Niklas, who managed Abwehr's main network in Mexico City, had developed contacts within the circle of American businessmen freely traveling between Detroit and Mexico's oil industry. These individuals recounted astonishing stories, unaware their dinner conversations were being meticulously monitored by German spies. On February 3, 1943, American oil manager Harold Morrison attended an event at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in Mexico City. After a few tequilas, Morrison began detailing his recent guided tour of the Willow Run plant, an event arranged by Ford to impress prospective investors with its ability to meet government orders. Gentlemen, Morrison announced unaware that Wolfgang Blau, a German operative disguised as an Argentinian leather dealer, was committing his statements to memory. What I witnessed is beyond words. The assembly track stretches for more than a mile. The facility is so large that it produces internal clouds and sometimes even rainfall inside. A workforce of 42,000 people, including thousands of women and black women, are building what is perhaps the most intricate apparatus ever made. Morrison then produced a pencil and started drawing on a napkin. The bomber contains a pair of bomb bays, each accommodating 4,000 pounds of explosive payload, with 4 engines each generating 1,200 horsepower. The process divides construction into segments, or subassemblies as Ford designates them, which merge like river tributaries. Wing pieces come from one way, fuselages another, with tail units from yet a third. They are brought together at exactly determined spots along the line. Blau inquired, feigning casual curiosity. But surely so many parts must cause frequent malfunctions and slowdowns. Morrison laughed. That was Consolidated Aircraft's assertion. They ridiculed Ford, claiming that airplanes could not be made like automobiles. But Ford split the bomber into 60,000 discrete tasks. Every laborer repeats the same job continuously. A mother who just yesterday was fixing breakfast for her children now attaches hydraulic tubes within the tail. They educate them within several days instead of months. Perhaps the most comprehensive reports came via Francoist Spain. Colonel José Ungría, Spain's military attaché in Washington, kept a strong rapport with American airplane builders while secretly sending information to Germany in return for tungsten imports essential to the Spanish economy. In March 1943, Ungría went to an event at the Argentine embassy where he encountered Charles Sorensen, Ford's director of production and leading mind behind Willow Run. Sorensen, under the impression he was talking to an official from a neutral country who might be interested in purchasing planes after the war, discussed the factory's capabilities openly. Colonel Sorensen shared information, not realizing that all his statements would reach Berlin within 2 weeks. When I first toured the consolidated San Diego facility in 1940, they were assembling B-24s outdoors, exposed to sunlight, with each aircraft differing from the next and requiring 180,000 man-hours each. I understood that there was room for improvement. Gria, asserting professional curiosity as a military engineer, requested additional specifics. Sorensen, pleased with his accomplishments, complied with the request. I dedicated one evening in my San Diego hotel room to diagramming the full production process. Our production model would manufacture bombers in the same manner as cars, moving aircraft past fixed stations rather than having assemblers crowd around a stationary plane. Individual workers would repeat specific tasks, perfecting them through sheer repetition. The Spaniard inquired into the workforce difficulties posed by so much complexity. Sorensen answered, saying that an apprentice school had been set up, training 8,000 workers per week. Women make up 40% of our labor force, he continued. They are often more proficient at detailed assignments, possessing smaller hands that suit confined spaces, and a higher level of patience for repetitive jobs. We also have black workers operating advanced equipment. There are boys as young as 16 managing logistics and supplies. At the core of our democracy is making use of all human talent. German intelligence was able to corroborate Willow Run's output rate by gathering reports through Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish contacts. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg toured the facility in March 1943, noting, "The plant functions at a level of efficiency that is beyond what Europeans can comprehend. It utilizes 1,600 specialized machine tools, some tailored for a single procedure. The amount spent on equipment is enormous, maybe $200 million for tools alone." Japanese officer Toshikazu Omi sent an encrypted report to Tokyo, which German intelligence intercepted, providing independent confirmation. This one factory turns out more planes each month than the complete Japanese aircraft industry. By April 1943, The Germans had compiled extensive information from 17 different sources, all validating the output rate. The figures were overwhelming. Willow Run by itself was rolling out 650 B-24 bombers each month at peak levels, while total US B-24 production surpassed 1,400 per month. In dire need of direct verification, Canaris launched Operation Pastorius, which sent saboteurs into America by submarine. George John Dash, who led one of 2 teams of 4 men, was a long-term American resident who had returned to Germany in 1939 after 20 years. Canaris's covert directives to Dash were to collect aircraft production intelligence before attempting any acts of sabotage. Just after midnight on June 13, 1942, Dash's group came ashore at Amagansett, Long Island, having arrived from U-202 in the early hours. Within a few days, troubled by the nature of his assignment and what he already knew of America's capacity, Dash surrendered himself to the FBI. While being questioned, Dash disclosed something that left his American interrogators astonished. Canaris personally told me that Berlin doubted your production statistics. They think Willow Run is a fabrication. He needed photographs, employment records, shipping documents, evidence that would make Göring face the facts. FBI agent Charles Landman, in Disbelief, asked, "They genuinely don't think we manufacture a bomber every hour?" Dash responded with a bitter laugh. "Agent Landman, I've lived here. I've witnessed your auto plants. I tried to convince them that if Ford could build a car every 60 seconds before the war, it was entirely possible to build a bomber each hour now. They called me a defeatist." On April 20, 1943, for Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris gave his report directly to Göring at Karen Hall, the Reich Marshal's lavish hunting lodge outside Berlin. German intelligence officials would later regard this encounter as legendary for Göring's total denial of the facts. Canaris brought photos, translated documents, and reports from numerous sources, spreading them over Göring's massive oak table as though laying out a hand bound to lose. Herr Reich Marshal, Canaris began with caution, 17 disparate sources have confirmed it for us. The Ford Willow Run factory is putting out a B-24 Liberator every hour at its top output. Since January, they've maintained this tempo. Göring, whose wartime weight exceeded 280 pounds, picked up a picture showing the long assembly line. With disdain, Göring said, "Canaris, do you think I'm an idiot? Clearly these are just wooden decoys, props crafted for propaganda. The Americans want us to imagine they can fabricate aircraft as quickly as sausages. Realistically, the Willow Run facility probably manufactures, at best, 50 bombers a month." Canaris produced another file, a captured Pennsylvania Railroad manifest documenting aluminum shipments. Herr Reich Marshal, this plant consumes 16 million pounds of aluminum per month. That total is greater than our own national production. Göring let out a scornful laugh. Where do they supposedly get all this aluminum? From their black workers? Their female riveters? Canaris, you have been duped by American misinformation. A week after, Canaris was ordered to the Wolf's Lair to personally debrief Hitler. In attendance at the meeting were Generals Jodl and Keitel, and Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels. Hitler, reviewing Eastern Front maps as the Wehrmacht prepared for Operation Citadel and the Battle of Kursk, listened with visible impatience while Canaris outlined his findings. "Mein Führer," Canaris said, fully aware that he was placing himself in jeopardy. Should the Americans be manufacturing 1,400 B-24s per month, together with an equal output of B-17s, along with their fighter planes and the British contributions, the air raids against the Reich will soon surpass what we can defend against. Hitler reacted in his usual fashion. "Admiral, Americans excel in mass-producing basic products, cars, refrigerators, but a bomber is not merely an automobile. It demands precision, expertise, and commitment. While it took us 6 years to prepare for conflict, they assert they managed this in 16 months. That is unthinkable." General Jodl reviewed Canaris's data and performed an estimation. "Even if we grant that a quarter of these statistics are real, the numbers remain false," Hitler interjected. America joined the war in December 1941. Constructing a miraculous plant and reaching such output so swiftly cannot be done. Unknown to the top Nazi officials, Canaris had gathered moving pictures of Willow Run functioning, acquired from American intelligence contacts based in Switzerland. The film, carried out secretly in Spanish diplomatic bags, depicted 5 minutes of the assembly process in full swing. Canaris and his aide Hans Oster viewed the footage inside a locked chamber at Abwehr headquarters. The camera filmed down the entire 1-mile assembly line. B-24s at various stages of assembly rolled along consistently. Workers, men and women, black and white, carried out their duties with machine-like accuracy. A clock visible in multiple frames validated the timing. "My God," Oster murmured. "It's real." Canaris used his cigarette lighter to ignite the film, observing it burn. "We cannot reveal this to them. They'd accuse us of fabricating the footage or betraying our country." In November 1943, German intelligence retrieved aerial images of Willow Run, snapped by a Spanish diplomat. Photo experts spent weeks examining the photos. Their findings: parking areas contained about 12,000 automobiles, demonstrating operation in 3 shifts. Finished B-24s could be seen at the nearby airstrip. 47 planes were prepared for dispatch. The assembly lane could be observed through the skylights. Aircraft spaced just as previous reports indicated. Railroad sightings showed many freight cars bringing in materials. Hedman Bernard remarked, "The photographic proof supports our human intelligence. The output level seems correct. Recommend urgent revision of strategy." Upon seeing the photographs, Göring dismissed them as clever American trickery, possibly involving model miniatures. Dr. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister and the only Nazi leader truly knowledgeable about mass production, secretly received American intelligence. His diary recording from May 15, 1943, found after the conflict, revealed his hopelessness. Should the Willow Run statistics be even half correct, we are not simply doomed but face destruction. They build more planes each month than we do during the entire year. Yet I dare not speak this truth. Doing so would mean my execution. Dr. Otto Ohlendorf, head of SD Inland and a skilled economist, studied United States economic statistics. His memorandum to Himmler in December 1943 was blunt. Ford Motor Company's peacetime output for 1941 was 1.1 million vehicles. They have adapted this entire capacity toward bomber output at present levels. By June 1944, the Americans will have produced enough B-24s alone to match all the bombs we dropped on London in 1940 daily. On December 24, 1943, Canaris received intelligence containing U.S. manufacturing forecasts for 1944. B-24 Liberators 18,000. B-17 Flying Fortresses 12,000. B-29 Superfortresses 1,000. Fighter planes 40,000. Grand total 86,000 aircraft. Hitler's reaction when these tallies were shown. The Americans insist they will outproduce the combined total of all planes ever built in history during 1944. Ridiculous. By February 1944, Canaris lost his position, suspected of pessimism and treacherous intentions. His successor, Walter Schellenberg, was a loyalist who never challenged Hitler nor Göring. However, the facts would not remain hidden forever. On February 20, 1944, during Big Week, the U.S. 8th Air Force began Operation Argument, launching more than 1,000 heavy bombers against German aircraft manufacturing facilities. Over 6 days, they released more explosives than the Luftwaffe had managed on Britain during all of the Blitz. Luftwaffe pilot Adolf Galland told Göring, "Herr Reichsmarschall, I have counted upwards of 800 bombers in a single group. These are genuine planes dropping live bombs." On June 6, 1944, upwards of 11,000 Allied airplanes flew over France. The Luftwaffe could field just below 300 fighters in response. Field Marshal Hugo Spur sent a frantic communication to Berlin. "Our enemy's control of the skies is total. Our information was accurate. We had not been fooled by Americans, but deceived ourselves. By April 1944, Willow Run attained its maximum output speed. That month, workers laboring 2 9-hour shifts a day for 6 days a week turned out 453 aircraft in 468 hours, matching a rate of 1 B-24 Liberator finished every 63 minutes. The facility employed 42,331 staff, including 11,000 women, which made up 26% of the workforce, 3,800 African Americans, 9%, and 1,200 disabled individuals, 3%. This workforce composition would have destroyed the very core of Nazi racial theory. Supposedly inferior peoples and marginalized groups were out-manufacturing the German master race tremendously. After the conflict, remaining German intelligence agents exposed the total extent of the breakdown. Walter Schellenberg gave testimony at Nuremberg. We comprehended the reality of U.S. production by early 1943. Every career intelligence analyst knew the numbers weren't exaggerations, but saying so meant risking execution for defeatist talk. Hans Bernd Gisevius recorded in his personal account, "The sadness was not a lack of data regarding American manufacturing. We were suffocating under it. The real loss was that our authorities ignored it because it went against their core beliefs about race." The German intelligence community members who tried to share the truth suffered terrible consequences. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg concentration camp. Hans Oster, also executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg. Alexis von Rohn, executed October 1944 for his role in the July 20 assassination attempt. Hans Bernd Gisevius fled to Switzerland and survived the war. The strategic bombing survey conducted by the United States validated what German spies had found. Between 1942 and 1945, Willow Run assembled 8,685 B-24 bombers. Monthly peak output reached 650 planes. The pace per hour held steady for many months. Per plane costs dropped from $238,000 to $137,000. When questioned in post-war captivity on why Germany discounted American production intelligence, Albert Speer stated, "To believe Ford could turn out a bomber each hour meant acknowledging our entire philosophy was false. That democracy was not frail, but resilient. That racial integration brought strength, not weakness. That women were capable of factory labor. Accepting this would require admitting we had started a war we were doomed to lose." Who would dare say this to Hitler? Rose Willow Monroe, who served as the real-life model for Rosie the Riveter, used a rivet gun while working on the B-24 assembly line. Monroe, along with thousands of other women, had not been employed in industrial work before the attack on Pearl Harbor. "We understood we were creating something significant," Monroe recalled during an interview in 1984. "Each rivet we installed would help bring the war to a close. Sometimes we worked double shifts, taking naps in the parking lot between one and the next. Our brothers, husbands, and sweethearts were piloting these aircraft. Ignoring intelligence about Willow Run had disastrous results." Fighter production. German forces kept manufacturing bombers up through late 1944. Resource allocation. Supplies were squandered on so-called wonder weapons rather than on effective defenses. Strategic planning. German leadership prepared for attacks from hundreds of bombers, not thousands. Diplomatic failures. Efforts for peace were postponed because they failed to grasp the inevitability of certain defeat. German economists, upon reviewing seized documents, realized the actual magnitude. Willow Run cost $200 million. The total investment in the German aircraft sector from 1933 to 1945 equaled $400 million. Willow Run's floor area was 3.5 million square feet. All German aircraft production spaces combined amounted to 8 million square feet. Willow Run's electricity usage reached 2.5 million kilowatts per month. The United States constructed one plant that used up more resources than entire German metropolitan areas. When the final tally was made at the close of the war, the true extent came into focus. Altogether 18,188 B-24s were produced. Willow Run accounted for 8,685 of these. The total number of B-17s manufactured was 12,731. Between 1940 and 1945, the United States built a total of 33,717 aircraft. Within that same timeframe, Germany turned out 94,700 aircraft. America produced 3.2 times the number of planes as Germany, all while fighting on two fronts. Scholars consider the German intelligence lapse about American manufacturing power among the most critical failures in military annals. The fault did not stem from inadequate gathering. German operatives obtained precise and comprehensive information. The error lay in the unwillingness to accept it. Leaders dismissed intelligence when it clashed with their preconceived notions. According to Dr. Gerd Weinberg, German intelligence had correctly gauged American manufacturing capability by early 1943. If such assessments had been trusted and heeded, Germany may have pursued peace 2 years sooner, sparing millions of lives. This narrative offers deep insights. Cognitive distortion. Even precise intelligence may be dismissed when it conflicts with deeply held convictions. Ideological obstinacy. Political dogma can block out statistical fact. Systemic dysfunction. Intelligence operations that penalize unpleasant realities become breeding grounds for agreeable falsehoods. Lethal underestimation. Misjudging adversaries can yield disastrous blunders. During the 1985 dedication ceremony for the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, former Rosie the Riveter Rose Willow Monroe encountered ex-Luftwaffe pilot Hans Rudel. Rudel queried, "How were you able to construct so many, so quickly?" Monroe replied, "Sweetheart, we simply showed up for work each day and did our part. There was nothing extraordinary about it. Just clock in, build bombers, clock out. Democracy is not complicated. All it requires is free people doing their utmost." Rudel responded, "We had been told democracy would weaken you, that your diversity made you ineffective. We were misled, and those deceptions cost millions of lives." In Berlin's ruins in May 1945, American intelligence officers uncovered a final German reconnaissance file on Willow Run, dated April 20, 1945, which was Hitler's last birthday. Willow Run's production had been verified. We relayed this accurate information 2 years prior. It was not believed. Germany perished not from a deficit of intelligence but from an incapacity to accept truths that ran counter to cherished beliefs. Let later generations recognize that reality is immune to ideology. Mathematics does not give way to fable. Ignored facts turn into catastrophe. The final report was never presented. By that time, Hitler was already sealed in his bunker. The thousand-year Reich had mere days left, and countless American bombers, many produced at Willow Run, offered the conclusive proof German intelligence tried to present 2 years earlier. History's judgment is unmistakable. The quality of German intelligence itself was impressive. The acceptance of that intelligence, however, proved ruinous. Failing to heed uncomfortable facts stands as a caution to all states. Actuality is indifferent to belief. Nations that favor ideology over truth will ultimately fall because of it. Willow Run accomplished more than assembling bombers. It offered evidence that democracy functions, that diversity is a source of strength, and that liberty delivers results. German spies meticulously recorded every aircraft. German officials dismissed all of it. That incredulity ensured the Third Reich's destruction as surely as any bomb.